At 36, Shinji was the senior director of growth for a tech giant, a man who viewed the world not in colors or emotions, but in data points. To him, a sunset was merely a high-performing background for a lifestyle post, and a conversation was a networking opportunity with a projected ROI. He lived by the rule of optimization. If a hobby couldn't be tracked on a wearable device, it was a waste of time. If a meal didn't have the aesthetic potential to drive a 5% click-through rate, it was just fuel. He was a master of the machine, and the machine, in turn, had made him a god of the modern metrics. His girlfriend, Hisako, was a high-tier interior designer whose presence in his life felt less like a romance and more like a successful brand merger. Their date nights were pre-scheduled blocks in a shared Google Calendar, often spent in silence, as they both monitored the engagement on the photos they had just taken of their appetizers. The platform's algorithm didn't just change, it inverted. The psychological triggers Shinji had spent a decade perfecting, the outrage loops, the aspirational ending, the rapid-fire hooks, suddenly plummeted into a void. It didn't prioritize what was popular, it prioritized what was persistent and unperformative. Shinji's personal brand engagement dropped by 90% overnight. The perfectly curated life he had built was suddenly invisible to the very systems he worshipped. The numbers that usually climbed like a fever, likes, shares, mentions, flatlined. He felt a physical sensation in his chest, a vacuum where his sense of self used to be. For a week, Shinji spiraled. He sat in his glass-walled office, frantically A/B testing headlines for his own existence, trying to hack his way back into relevance. Hisako, sitting across the table, was utterly helpless with her workaholic boyfriend. The silence was deafening. "I'm going for a drive," he muttered, leaving his phones on the charger, a sacrilegious act that made his palms itch with phantom vibrations. He drove until the city lights faded into the bruised purples of a coastal twilight. He ended up at a small, weathered pier in a town that didn't appear on his top 10 weekend getaways list. There were no neon signs, no QR codes, no check-in points. He stood at the edge of the wood, his thumbs twitching with the ghost memory of scrolling. He felt a profound sense of non-existence. If he wasn't being tracked, was he even there? An old man was methodically cleaning a fishing net nearby. He moved with a slow, deliberate rhythm that Shinji found infuriatingly inefficient. "They aren't biting today," the old man said, not looking up. "The conditions must be wrong," Shinji replied reflexively. "The barometric pressure, the seasonal migration data. I could pull a report for you." The old man chuckled, a dry sound like shifting gravel. "The conditions are always wrong if you're looking for a guarantee. I'm not here for the fish, son. I'm here for the water." "That's inefficient," Shinji said, though his voice lacked its usual bite. "Why spend the resources if there's no output?" "Efficiency is for people who are scared of dying," the man said, finally looking up. His eyes were clear, unburdened by the digital fatigue Shinji carried. "You spend your whole life trying to solve the day so you can get to the next one. But the day isn't a problem to be solved. It's a room to be lived in. You've been standing in the hallway for years, looking at the blueprints, and you've forgotten to walk through the door." Shinji looked out at the ocean. For the first time in a decade, he didn't think about how to describe it. He didn't think about the keywords for the salt air or the target audience for the sound of the crashing waves. He felt the cold wind sting his cheeks. It hurt, and it was beautiful. He stayed there for hours, watching the tide come in, not because it was content, but because it was happening. When he returned to the city, the air felt different. He walked into the office the next morning and looked at the glowing screens, the vibrating phones, and the frantic employees chasing the new algorithm like hounds after a mechanical rabbit. He saw the anxiety in their eyes, the same frantic hunger for a number to tell them they were worthy of existing. His assistant ran in, breathless. "Shinji, we found a loophole. If we pivot to vulnerability bait, long captions about being real, we can trick the new filter. We can reclaim the lost reach." Shinji looked at the kid, 24, caffeinated, and trembling with the need to be seen by a line graph. He saw his old self, and he felt a sudden, sharp pang of pity. "I'm not doing it," Shinji said. What? But the KPIs, I'm going to lunch. And I'm going to eat something that tastes like absolutely nothing on the internet, Shinji said. The next day, his boss, Yuna, was pacing in front of a whiteboard covered in red ink. Shinji. Thank God, Yuna barked, her eyes bloodshot. The shareholders are screaming. Our Q4 projections are in the toilet. We need a hard pivot to relatability. The room was silent, 20 pairs of eyes staring at Shinji, waiting for the master of optimization to provide the winning formula. No, Shinji said, standing up. That's the game. And I'm just tired of playing. I spent 10 years optimizing my life, and I ended up with a life that was 100% efficient and 0% real. I don't want to look relatable, Yuna. I want to actually be related to something. He walked out of the conference room. He didn't make a scene. He didn't give a grand speech to the interns. He just walked to his desk, took his personal notebook, and left his company-issued laptop sitting on the dock. It was still vibrating with notifications, urgent emails about real-time sentiment analysis. But the sound felt distant, like a radio playing in a house he no longer lived in. He walked out of the glass towers and into the street. It was 11 a.m. on a Wednesday. In his old life, this time was strictly reserved for deep work strategy. Instead, Shinji walked to a small, cluttered hardware store 3 blocks away. He spent 40 minutes looking at different types of wood, feeling the grain under his fingers, talking to the owner about the best varnish for a porch chair. There was no efficiency in the conversation. It was just 2 people talking about wood. He went home and began to dismantle his optimized life. He turned off the cortisol tracking lights. He canceled the calorie slurry subscription. He sat on his balcony and watched the neighbors. He saw a mother teaching her son to ride a bike. He saw an old woman watering her plants. He saw a delivery driver taking a secret 5-minute nap in his van. None of it was high-performing content. None of it would ever trend. It was just the messy, uncurated, beautiful reality of a world that didn't care about his click-through rate. A month later, Shinji took a job as an assistant manager at a local furniture workshop. The pay was a fraction of his executive salary. His reach was limited to the 12 people he worked with and the customers who walked through the door. Shinji shifted his focus in life, living each day in a relaxed and joyful way, able to discuss design plans with his designer girlfriend, Hisako. Shinji smiled, and for the first time, the smile reached his eyes, crinkling the corners in a way that no lighting setup could replicate. Shinji found something he had never been able to optimize: the simple, quiet dignity of a life that was finally, stubbornly, and beautifully his own.
If you enjoyed this story, please share it with others and subscribe to this channel. Thank you for your time.